Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Well, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Welcome to the channel where we talk about trading card games and flesh and blood and all the things. I hope that you will hit the subscribe button and join us tonight where we celebrate hitting 5,000 subscribers. We celebrate Flesh and Blood's 2-year birthday, and we have a great time at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so let's talk about birthdays. I am not a fan of birthdays personally. And so this video, I'm trying really hard to be excited about a birthday. Let me tell you why I'm not a big fan of birthdays. As a driven human, as somebody who's always trying to move forward and get better and whatever, I tend to see birthdays as a time where I look back and think about all the things I should have done better, or all the things that I screwed up on. And for some reason, like just my attitude of being driven and wanting to move forward, I see birthdays as like a reminder that I didn't quite get to where I wanted to be. And that usually motivates me to be better and get there hopefully by next year. And then I do the whole thing again. So I wanted to take a chance and say, no, like I'm gonna be positive. We're gonna do 2-year birthday. We're gonna look at the top 5 things that Flesh and Blood has done in their 2-year lifespan. And I came up with 6, so I couldn't get it down to 5. So it's a flaw. I know the birthday thing, it's a flaw. I'm working on it. Let's work on it here and look at the top 6 things that Flesh and Blood has done. All right, so number 1. This is really in no particular order. Don't judge my order on these. This is just how I did. Number 1, launching Flesh and Blood in 2019 after what I'm aware of, or what I've been told, of 7 years of development. Let's talk about that for a second. It is really, really, really hard to hold on to something that you love for 7 years while you're developing it and refining it and making it what it is and then launching it. It's really hard to not just say 2 years in, okay, here we go, we're going for it. And I appreciate so much the intentionality of holding on for 7 years and refining things. And you can see this in the way that the game is set up and the balance, specifically the balance on the sets that they were working on for those 7 years. And you can see that in the excellence in the cold foil process. They've shown us the cold foiling process. You can see that in the excellence in that the borders, I don't know if you know this, but all the borders on the card, they don't represent the heroes, like they don't represent the hero, they represent where the hero came from, the land that they came from in Wraith. And so like the attention to detail that they were able to accomplish in that 7 years is fantastic. And then the attention to detail in how they set up organized play and how they set up the armory kits and all those things. A really, really great standard that I think anybody who's thinking about starting a business or doing whatever should really consider is make sure you have your eggs in a basket. And I don't know what the behind the scenes, I don't know if there was money there, like, how to, they had to come up with the funding, all that stuff. I'm sure there's some of that too. But just from the development of the game, the way, one of the huge things, the way they developed each card to have basically a blank sheet where if it's got, a 3 cost, then, there's gives and takes. If the card draws you a card, it doesn't do some other things. There's just gives and takes in this template that they created over those 7 years. And that allows them, I think, to refine things moving forward too. So number 1 is that the way they did their launch, they organized it, they set it up for a lot of success with that 7-year time frame. Number 2, and this one is going to be a little hot take, partnering, maybe not hot take based on this week, but partnering with Team Covenant and Rudy. And I want to talk about this because I think that this is such a good brain move by them. It's unbelievable. And I have no clue what those partnerships looked like at the beginning or whatever. But by partnering with Team Covenant, they reached this kind of 2 guys that just love trading card games, just love the playing side of trading card games. And then by reaching out to Rudy and getting Rudy on board, they found this guy who loves collecting and investing. And they brought both of these, not together, they didn't bring them together, but they brought both of these attitudes into the community. And I personally, as a person who loves playing games, and as a person who loves collecting and investing in games, like for me, like that was a huge avenue to say, okay, LSS values these 2 sides of the market equally. And I think that's a really, really important thing to tell to trading card players, tell to trading card collectors that, hey, we value this side of the game, and you can do that by leaning into the people in the community who do that best. And so I think partnering with both of those was really, really good. And on top of that, it was really, really good for the game because you know, a game in New Zealand, it's hard to get a bunch of, you know, attitudes going on here in the United States. It's hard to get a local game store to support it. But all of a sudden, Rudy does a video, Team Covenant does a video, you get the boxes, you play it at your local game store, the guy sees it, the guy who owns the store sees it, and then, you know, starts picking up the game. It's a great way to grow the local store by doing online and, you know, YouTube videos, stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. Number 3, again, these are in really no particular order. This one might actually be my number 1. Skirmish Season 1. Skirmish Season 1, I think, when you look at the history of Flesh and Blood, when you take this in 20 years, when you look back on the history of Flesh and Blood, I firmly believe that Skirmish Season 1 is going to be this pinnacle moment where a ton of people went from buying the cards and collecting the cards and holding the cards and looking at them and collecting them, where a ton of people went from that to playing the game. And I really believe that this was a massive shift, maybe not in New Zealand, maybe not in Australia, but in United States, this was a massive shift from collecting and buying and investing, and you saw a ton of those people move to actually playing the game because they did an online thing that, you know, there was a ton of online skirmishes, a ton of people were able to just pick up the game. I remember that season, there was a lot of complaints that, like, there were so many new players, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful because there were so many new people hopping in and trying out the game that had been involved in the community. And I think the way that they handled that and the way that they pushed that out and the way that they, you know, one of the things that Flesh and Blood is known for is being played in the flesh and blood. And I love that when they saw the opportunity, they had to take a step back and say, no, what's most important is that people are able to play the game. And even though they had to sacrifice some of the in the flesh and blood side of that, I think what we learned is that playing the game on Discord, playing the game with your, you know, with a community on Discord and those things, it has a lot of the same elements of playing in the flesh and blood, and it's much different than like Magic Arena where you don't even see the guy's face, you don't have any connection with them, you can't have a conversation and whatever. So I think Skirmish Season 1 showed that LSS is willing, when they need to take a step back from like this attitude of only in-person play. And what it did was it brought in a lot of people whose LGSs weren't running the game, it brought in a lot of people who were just thinking online, just Facebook buying, selling, trading, and they were like, no, I want to try it. And so they tried it in that moment. I think that was a huge moment in Flesh and Blood. And I look back on that moment, and for me, and I know I'm projecting a little bit of my attitude there, but for me, that was the moment where everything locked in, like everything kicked, and I was like that kind of month, seeing all those people hopping and playing really kicked it off for me. All right, number 4, something you might not be aware of is something actually in the last couple of weeks, which this is an LGS Spotlight that they are doing on Instagram and on Facebook and maybe Instagram. But, you know, this is their LGS Spotlight. And here's one of the things that I think that they can continue to do a lot better, but they are starting to do, is utilizing their reach on social media to promote local stores, to promote local communities. You know, the first one they went with was Team Covenant, which, you know, I'm not going to criticize that. That is what it is. I'm not sure Team Covenant really needs it, but, you know, it's a great direction to say, hey, we're going to take one of these LGSs that has been carrying our game, and we're going to do a spotlight on them and show the community what they're doing. And I personally think that this is the greatest direction that LSS can go with this game, to take their reach, to take their attitude, to take their encouragement and post that and to put that on the social media for the world to see, will then make other LGSs do a better job, will make other communities do a better job, and will really set up the game to be valuing these LGSs like they say they are. So like, I think this is a really great dynamic and a really great move forward. And I've said for a long time that LSS needs to work on the social media presence. If you look at these other games that are going on, They've got a lot of pull on social media, and I think that LSS can lean into that, and it seems like they are, and so I think that that's a major, major step forward. All right, number 5 is Vegas. Vegas was freaking amazing. It was so much fun. It was so cool to get together with everyone. It'll be really interesting over the next couple weeks and month to see these other events and to see how those go. I will not be able to go to, I might be able to go to Cincinnati for a day, but I just had another kid, so it's all a mess. But Vegas was so much fun. It was so cool to see everybody coming together to experience that. The social media presence was amazing. The amount of content, you had the professor there, you had a ton of content creators, a ton of people who were able to document this experience so that the world can see it's not just financial up and down charts and this and that, but it's also all these people who are playing. I personally like the more casual side of Flesh and Blood, but this was a huge win for the competitive side of this game, which I know is LSS's big focus and big attitude shift. So I think it's a huge win for the whole community to see that, and it was really funny. I think you saw a lot of Magic the Gathering people say, man, we want that again. Man, we want that again. And you know, now you're starting to see them go back and do that more. So you're gonna see some competition, which is really good in the trading card game world. And I think it'll bring more and more eyeballs to Flesh and Blood from that competitive side. That being said, like I would love to see more the casual side too, but we're not getting into that. Number 6, this is kind of casual. This is where we go. This is the one I added because I couldn't not do it. Crucible of War. Man, that set, Crucible of War, I firmly, is a love letter to collectors and players together. And I think Crucible of War is going to be one of the looked at sets for history of Flesh and Blood and maybe trading card world in the future as this like beautiful love letter to a collector and a player. If you think about the way that it balanced out a lot of things, it gave Warrior some really cool cards, some iconic stuff. The artwork, the cold foil, the Majestics, the equipment, just the way that it was set up as an auxiliary product, as a supplemental set that kind of leaned into the heroes that we all knew and loved, and then added things and basically gave them like a little treasure chest. And every couple packs, your a little treasure chest of new equipment. It was just a beautifully made thing. I know you can't draft it. I don't think that matters. You've got the draft sets, you've got all those things. Now this is like, hey, you get this little prize for falling in love with these heroes. And I think the Crucible of War is one of LSS's best. It's the perfect example in my mind of something that benefited and helped and encouraged and supported the player, and the collector, and the investor. But the amount of attitude that went into that set for both collectors and players, in my mind, was huge and was really cool. And now where this shifts is I hope that they do that again. As we look forward to the future, one of the big things that they added with Crucible of War was Ultimate Pit Fight. Ultimate Fight Pit, Ultimate Pit Fight. Anyway, and I think that they can lean into that, and I need to lean into that more. I'm gonna try to lean into that more on the channel of this casual play of Ultimate Pit Fight. It was supposed to happen, but with the flooding basement, it just all got delayed. And so hopefully we are there. Hopefully as a channel, we can move forward with some stuff I've got set up here to do that. But also I think with this next supplemental set, this is where I think you see some sort of player versus environment experience PvE, where you're playing, 4 of you versus a boss. And you have this really interactive thing that can start to, in my mind, compete with the attitude of like Commander. In my mind, compete with the idea of playing with a large group that's not competitive and that's more just for fun. And at that point, I think this thing blows up. Like if you have that thing that you can market and you can direct towards the average trading card player who's not looking competitively, I think that's gonna be a huge, huge win. So those are my top 6 things for Flesh and Blood. Man, happy birthday. LSS, congratulations, James White, team, Chris, all you guys I get to interact with on the every now and then. Congratulations on 2 years of this company. I know that I have seen things that I think could be better, and I've shared those. I wanted to focus this video on things that I think have gone really, really well over the last 2 years. I love this game. I'm super excited about it. Super excited for the future. And happy birthday. We'll see you on stream tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to be kind to the people around you. We'll see you again next video.